Let's talk about PJ Tucker. I don't think it's official yet, but it looks like some sort of 3-year, $30 million contract with the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's react and grade this thing out of 10. Let's lead off with you, Rob. What was your grade and where are you at?
I mean, Dives, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we started, grading free agents, and he was our top grade consensus for both of us. I understand everybody's fear of the age. I get it, but we're in a 1 to 2 year window here. And anyone that thinks it's different is incorrect on that. What did this team lack a lot of this year? Toughness and a guy that could just piss off the other team's best player defensively. I know that PJ Tucker's 37 years old. I get it. I get all those concerns. But a guy like that fits what this team needs in the sense of a tough, savvy veteran who could still knock down a shot from the corner and can defend on the other side and be that pain in the ass type of guy that I don't think the Sixers have really had in the Embiid run here. I love the idea of PJ Tucker on this team. He was the first guy that I thought of when I thought about free agency for this team. Because of his age, I won't give it a 10. I'll probably sit 7.5, 8, somewhere in there. But I would be thrilled if this comes to fruition because I'll be honest with you, I'm not really worried about year 3 right now. I'm worried about years 1 and 2. And I do believe in year 1 at least, he's still got enough juice in the tank to help this team, get to where they want to be.
You know what I just thought of? Ironically, I love this picture right here because, when was the last time the Sixers had a dog on this team, a guy that would, get in someone's face? I go to Corey Brewer, ironically, defending James Harden. If anybody remembers that game, I remember, just Sixers fans going nuts because they never seen that before for years. It was awesome. And there we go, PJ Tucker and James Harden on the same screen as we go. But Austin, what was your grade for the PJ Tucker signing, assuming everything goes through?
I think it's A+. I think everyone gets upset about the age and all that. I think age for a guy who has inherently has a low usage doesn't really matter all that much. He's not going to be asked to do things that he's never done before. He's going to be asked to score 6 to 7 points a game, get some rebounds. I mean, look, at 36, he was wiping the Sixers' ass up and down the floor in the playoffs. I mean, beating them to every loose ball, every, back cut, every offensive rebound, and he made them look stupid, quite frankly, doing it. So, if Joel Embiid wants PJ Tucker, you might as well go get him because if you lose the second round again, at least you can't say that we didn't do it Joel's way.
Right on. What about you, Tiago?
Yeah, this is where I think we're going to diverge a little bit in opinions because I don't necessarily agree with the takes being thrown out there. Listen, I'm not a GM. Smart teams want PJ Tucker on their team. There's obviously a reason why. The guy's a very good player. But I don't think you can just look at that as a vacuum. PJ Tucker is 37 years old, 37 going on 38 eventually.
Yeah, but 37 is in 21. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, but he's also not I don't consider him a low usage player. He may be on numbers wise, but he defends up position. He defends multiple position. And that is wear and tear in your body. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. So yes, he had a phenomenal year at Miami. There's no question about it. If the Sixers get this level of output from the PJ Tucker from Miami, it's an absolutely slam dunk signing. No questions asked. But I am skeptical that they will get that level of output for the simple reasons that, one, he was used differently in Miami. Miami used him a lot on backdoor cutting, like Austin talked about. They're way more creative with their offensive sets than Sixers are. Again, not to go back into the Doc Rivers conversation, but I don't trust the Sixers to utilize him the same level of efficiency that Miami did. And second of all, if you go back and look at his shooting numbers prior to last year, they weren't good. They were average to below average spot up numbers, which is supposed to be the role that he's going to be serving here with the Sixers. So if he's that type of player, if the Sixers get the regression level player next year, then it's not a slam dunk A+ signing. It's just not. I mean, it's just not. So I'm a little more skeptical, a little bit more hesitant about if that's the player the Sixers are going to get. If they are going to get that player, then it's absolutely A+, no questions. But I'm not so sure.
What's your grade?
I would give it like a C+, B-.
C plus. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably in the middle of all you guys. Like, I have.
No, that's no fun.
I know it's not. I know it's not. I have concerns. Like Thiago mentioned, like he's 37. Like he's definitely getting up there. He definitely wasn't as good as he was in Miami the years leading up to that. But on the other end, you know, he was on two really good teams the last 2 years. He was like the third or fourth best player in the playoffs on Miami this year. At times, it felt like he was an important piece on a championship roster 2 years ago. Where I keep bringing the Bucks up, but I kind of think because I mentioned the way that they used Giannis to become a post-level player who is still the best player on a championship team, I think the Sixers can take a lot of lessons in what the Bucks did. And I think PJ Tucker was a really important piece of that. And I think they learned that this year when they were missing a dog in the playoffs. I mean, I know they had another injury that was kind of part of why they went down. But anyway, I think obviously PJ Tucker he's a different type of guy, like you guys mentioned, than we've had. He has that dog in him. I think he is a leader. I think he's a vet. Like there's certain things that I usually don't give a lot of credence to. I tend to be a lot more numbers based, but those are things that you can't take away. And those were things that everyone came out in the post game or in the post series pressers and said that they were lacking toughness. And I think PJ Tucker does make a lot of sense, but when it comes down to it, put all that aside, none of it matters. I think Austin Krell nailed the whatever you want to say, the tail on the donkey, whatever. I was missing the expression. Nailed the pin on the whatever you want to say. Nailed something on something. I think if Joel Embiid was asking for it, I think you do it. I think Joel Embiid is the franchise. You look at some of the other franchise players in their sports, like Kevin Durant at one point was calling the shots for Brooklyn, like LeBron's calling the shots for the Lakers. Like Joel Embiid, I'm not saying I need him to be the GM and need him making every decision, but if he goes and says, hey, I want PJ Tucker and we have the ability to do it, realistically, we're signing him to be a sixth man. We're signing him to be the sixth or seventh most important guy on the roster. So I think that at that point you go and do it and you hope that, like Rob said, year one is what last year was, or 90 to 95% of what last year was. And you worry about year two and year three down the line. And it's also not like $10 million is not an impossible trade to move. So I give it like a B.
All right. A B. So we're going to settle around like an 8.5 out of 10 from what I see. Real quick, Anthony has a great question. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and that is PJ Tucker next to Tobias Harris. What is your vision of PJ Tucker on offense and defense with the Sixers? And do you see him as a starter or coming off the bench? Lead us off, Mark. Do you like the fit with Tobias, or do you think he's better off the bench?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people really nervous about the fit with Tobias. Tobias' three-point rate was way up once James Harden got here. Like, I'm not as negative on Tobias right now as a lot of people seem to be. And I think you look at the fact that PJ Tucker was playing forward next to Jimmy Butler, who doesn't shoot threes most of the time. Sometimes he decides to in the playoffs when he's feeling like it. But in the regular season, Jimmy Butler doesn't shoot threes. PJ Tucker fit in fine next to Jimmy Butler. I'm not saying Jimmy and Tobias are the perfect fit next to each other, but are the perfect, comparison in terms of how PJ Tucker is going to fit with both of them. But I don't really understand a lot of there's no way these two can play together and we have to trade Tobias. I guess I don't really vibe with that.
What about you, Thiago? Do you see this guy as a starter next year or coming off the bench?
I don't not see him as a starter. I think if the Sixers were to move Tobias and slot PJ Tucker in that four, I think they were making a big mistake. Yes, they were net positively defensively, but offensively, I think they'll be leaving a lot on the table for PJ Tucker to fill in that role. So I agree with Mark. I do think they can play together. You can play PJ at the 3, play PJ at the 4. Tobias seems pretty flexible between both spots. Obviously, the 4 being the better position for him, but I do think they can work. I'm just a little bit hesitant about saying we need to move Tobias to have PJ Tucker to start. I don't agree with that take at all.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Tobias very, very soon. What about you, Rob? Or sorry, Austin. Austin's up.
That's what you do. You call the Lakers. You go, look, we have this forward. He's a good guy. Reads a lot of books. Waka Flocka Flame says he's a lot like a guy you already have. And you say, we'll take LeBron James off your hands, and
That bum.
and you can just eat the salary, and that'll be all. And
Sure.
he'd be a great fit next to franchise player Russell Westbrook. And, you guys are in a good position to win a title. No, I mean, look, like Tobias is Tobias. I mean, you're fighting an uphill battle if you try to convince people that he's a really good player who's just overpaid. Everyone thinks he sucks. I think in a positionless NBA, you can have two starting power forwards. Like one is never in the post anyway. One's stretched out to the corners or cutting to the basket or setting screens. Other one is shooting off the catch or posting up. So I mean, I don't think it isn't like you're playing two guys that are going to be double posted. One's going to do one thing, the other's going to do another thing. They just happen to positionally be labeled as the same thing.
What about you, Rob? Real quick before we move on to our next storyline.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everybody. I think the NBA is more positionless now in certain things, especially in that 3 and 4 position. I don't think these guys are the same player in any way, shape, or form. I think what you're seeing is a lot of people just continuing their Tobias hate. And honestly, like I said to Tiago before we came on here, the only way I was going to be okay with them moving Tobias if it was for something big. Like they needed that space for something big to happen. There's no reason to move the guy. The guy's a good NBA player. And if you watched him, and I think I said this during the year, when Tobias gets the ball earlier in a shot clock, he's much better. It's when he gets it late and he dribbles the clock out, and then it's like, holy shit, what's he doing? I think that they can absolutely work together. I think that's not a problem. And I think people need to just stop the Tobias hate in this town. Really.
I don't want to turn to a numbers podcast, but does anybody want to venture how many spot up attempts Tobias had in the postseason per game? It was almost 6 a game. He was like the 6th highest volume spot up player in the playoffs at 1.20 points per spot up. Like that's elite level scoring. PJ Tucker's not giving you that. He's just not. So you kind of need Tobias to fill that role, at least for now. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with Tiago on the whole. I think anyone suggesting that you have to move Tobias Harris because you signed PJ Tucker is insane. I think that there's trades I would entertain trading Tobias Harris for someone else just because of the value there. But it has nothing to do really with PJ Tucker. To me, PJ Tucker is a complete additive